What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports, and make that 2 wins in a row for the Philadelphia Flyers after the All-Star break, the win against the Florida Panthers, which was a really good game for the Orange and the Black. And for tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets, they win 4-1. But I do think the score kind of doesn't tell the full story of this game. Flyers played a fantastic first period. Yes, they got a couple of lucky bounces along the way on a couple of those goals, especially, the Konecny goal, the Frost goal. But sometimes that's the way, things go in the NHL. Sometimes when you're rolling good, the puck will just bounce your way. And some of those times it ends up in the back of the net and it results in a score for you. So they played a really good first period. Not going to lie. Sam Harrison didn't really see much. Flyers were getting the bulk of the chances, and, they were rewarded for, that strong play, and they were up 3-0 after 1. And they score early in the second period, shorthanded, Ryan Poehling, 4-0 lead there. But basically, since then, from that shorthanded goal on, the Flyers really didn't generate much. They barely had any shots going towards the rest of the game. I think they only had 2 shots in that entire second period. One of those shots obviously was the shorthanded goal by Poehling. But overall, if you're just looking by the period by period shot, just everything there, it really just wasn't pretty in that aspect. They had 3 shots in the second period. They had 5 shots so they had 8 shots in total combined in the final 2 periods of play. So that really showed you or dictated how much Winnipeg took control over those final few minutes, or not final few minutes, those final period and a half of the game. And the Flyers, they were giving up chances left and right. They really weren't able to generate anything else offensively after scoring that fourth goal. And Sam Harrison, give him a lot of credit. He was there. He was making saves, especially one of his key saves came in at the end of the first period when Winnipeg was forcing a little bit of chances there. There was a little bit of a cross-crease action, one-timer. Harrison manages to get his left leg over, cover the post, and manages to make the save. So that was a huge save in that aspect because who knows what could have happened at that point. If Winnipeg scored at the end of that first period, we're probably talking about a completely different game. But Sam Harrison was definitely in his bag tonight. He definitely deserved another shutout against the Jets, but sadly they did end up scoring with 5 minutes left in the game. Kyle Connor makes a nice move to get Harrison to move, and then he just tucks it behind them around the post, and that got Winnipeg on the board, and that was their only goal of the game. But especially in those dying minutes of the third period, it really just felt like the Flyers were just trying to survive and find a way just to end the game and get the 2 points. You could definitely tell from the post-game presser that Torts was not happy. This is definitely a game that Torts is not going to be happy with. I would say these 2 games coming out of the All-Star break were the complete opposite of each other. So the game against Florida, you play a disastrous first period where you could have been down at least 3-4 goals, but it's, to your goaltender, to the fact that it was only a 1-0 game for Florida at that point, and then you found a way to get your mojo back as the game went along, and you scored those 2 goals in order to win the game against the Florida Panthers. So, yeah, you got better as the game went along against Florida. Tonight, however, you probably got worse as the game went along. You start off with a very hot first period. Ryan Poehling was all over the ice tonight. He was really good. Same thing with guys like Garnett Hathaway. Noah Cates was all over the ice. TK was all over the ice. He got a fucking Gordie Howe hat trick in the first period. So, that showed you how much TK was in his bag then. So that was very nice to see. He gets the goal. He gets an assist on the Frost goal. And he also, gives himself a little bit of a fight there with Pionk. And it's funny, too, after the fight against Pionk, eventually those 2 come out of the box. And then when Konecny scores, the puck bounces in off Pionk. So I'm not sure if that showcases anything. I guess I'm not sure if you could say that's karma or that's the way just things bounce at the end of the day, where TK completely owned Pionk in that fight, and it just turned out to be Pionk deflecting TK's shot into the net eventually later on in that first period. It was just a weird set of circumstances. Like I said in the beginning, that's basically some of the ways and some of the times that the NHL bounces just happen at the end of the day. Seriously, the NHL is a very weird product. Winnipeg, they would have been one of the best teams in the NHL this year, and the Flyers beat them twice. That's not saying knocking anything on the Flyers. The Flyers have been a very, fun to watch squad this entire year, but like no one really expected the Flyers to beat Winnipeg twice this season. Shutting them out the first time in Winnipeg when Connor Hellebuck was in the net, and Connor Hellebuck did not play in tonight's game. It was Brossoit in the backup in the net for Winnipeg, and would that have, been a different impact if Connor Hellebuck was in the net for the Jets? I have no idea. But even sometimes when you don't play your best game, sometimes you still find a way to win. And that's when you do got to give a lot of credit to your goaltender, because Sam Ersson came up very large in a lot of aspects, especially down the stretch for you, because Winnipeg, they had 25 shots in the final 2 periods after only having 4 shots in the first. So Winnipeg really ramped it up. They had a lot of power plays, especially in the final half of the game. They didn't score on any of them. They had 3 power plays in the final half of the game, and the Flyers managed to kill all of those off. They had 2 in the second period, and I believe they had 1 in the start of the third period, and that was basically it. And really, like, it was, the Flyers were up 4-0, and maybe they were just playing a little bit of lackadaisical hockey. I guess they thought they could drop the energy. They really didn't have to do much. I guess that's like maybe the thought process they got in. That definitely isn't going to sit well with John Tortorella, because you got to give it 150%, regardless of what the score is out there on the score sheet. If it's a 4-0 game, he still wants you to go out there and bring the energy and set the tone and like give the other team like zero chance that they think they even have a shot at even trying to come back into this game. But, Sam Ersson was also in there to make sure that didn't happen. But this is definitely a mixed bag of emotions type of game. You're happy you get the 2 points, but you're definitely not happy with the way that the final 2 periods ended. You take the positives from what happened in the first period, but you do need to learn from what happened in the last 2. You cannot let your foot off the gas like that. And John Tortorella was 100% going to let this team know that that should not happen again, especially, you got away against Winnipeg somehow. You got away with that against Winnipeg. But when you're even playing even tougher competition, like you need to play like you did against Florida in those final 2 periods. You got to keep bringing up the pressure as the periods go along. That's got to keep happening and happening and happening. It just needs to. Like, you just can't step the foot off. You can't be taking the foot off the gas, especially when you play teams that are more offensively gifted. Not saying Winnipeg is not offensively gifted. They're definitely not one of the higher scoring teams in the league. They're just a well-rounded team that can roll 4 lines, has a great defensive core, and has a fantastic starting netminder. That's how they get their success. But when, say, you're going up against a team with a high offense, say like, the Colorado Avalanche, when you're going up against the Boston Bruins, when you're going up against a Toronto Maple Leafs, a New York Rangers, teams that can score at will, basically. When you let your foot off the gas a little bit and you're just constantly giving those other teams chances, sometimes your goaltender is not going to be able to bail you out every single time, like Sam Ersson did in tonight's game. And yeah, this is a good thing for Sam Ersson for the way that he has played in the past 2 games, especially, in the start against the Florida Panthers when the Flyers really didn't come out with their strongest effort in that first period. He really kept them involved, and he was one of the main reasons why they were able to win that game. And he was one of the main reasons why they won tonight's game, because, after you make it 4-0, you really take your foot off the gas, and he was a brick wall for you. He deserved the shutout. He definitely deserved the shutout. But sometimes that's just the way things roll, and you roll with those punches. Can't do much of it at the end of the day. Sam Ersson has been basically a beast for you majority of this season, and yes, now he's going to be taking a heavier load with, with now Carter Hart not being on the team anymore. So right now in these first 2 games since the All-Star break, he's definitely rang the bell and answered the door. He's been able to come up huge when his number was called in these 2 games, and I'm sure Tortorella is going to rely on him. You're going to be seeing Pettersson in there at some points, but when there's a back-to-back, I'm sure he's not going to be playing Ersson on back-to-backs. So if you're looking at the next few games here, they play Saturday against Seattle at home. Then they play Monday. Then I believe they have a couple of days off before they play Toronto. Then they have a day off where they play the outdoor game against the Devils. And then they have a couple of days off after that going on the road to Chicago or something like that. So they definitely got some days off mixed in here. So you're probably going to be seeing a lot of Sam Ersson over the next, week and a half or so like that. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. But, yeah, Important to get the 2 points here. You get the 4 out of 4 points in the first 2 games after the All-Star break. That's definitely a huge thing there, especially if you're looking at the standings right now, because it definitely is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Just because the teams like the New York Islanders, they're definitely a team that's creeping up in the standings a little bit. They got 54 points while you have 60, so there is some separation there. But they got 2 games in hand on you. So you got 6 points of separation between you and the Islanders, 7 points of separation between the Penguins, 7 points of separation between the Devils, 9 points between the Capitals, so on and so forth. You're 3 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes. You're 7 points behind the New York Rangers, which honestly you're not even really catching up to those guys. So really at this point, you're just looking at in that second and third place spot right now. You've got the points in hand, but you don't have the games in hand, and that's what the Islanders have in favor of you. And you just got to win the games that are in front of you, because do the Flyers even play the Islanders at all in the rest of the season? Because the rest of the month of February got Seattle, Arizona, Toronto, Devils, Blackhawks, Rangers, Penguins, Tampa Bay. What else? Month of March, Capitals, Senators, Blues, Florida teams again, San Jose, Toronto twice, Boston twice, Rangers again, Panthers again, Montreal, Blackhawks again, Hurricanes. I believe they do play the Islanders at least one more time. No, they don't. Oh, they do. Okay, they play the Islanders one more time going towards the end of the season, and that is in April. So, yeah, you know, just let's just keep seeing what this team does over this next stretch of the season. It was nice to see, Konecny score again. So that's 2 goals for him in these 2 games since the All-Star break. So hopefully he can go on a heater. That was his 24th of the season tonight. Nice to see Forrester get on the board for his 10th. Paling was all over the ice tonight. I thought he had a really good game. And basically, I would assume that, the bottom 6 definitely had a really good game tonight. And especially with going into the game, there's been a lot of trade rumors circling around, Sean Walker and Rasmus Ristolainen. And Ristolainen did not play tonight. Elliot Friedman did say it was an illness. It had nothing to do with any type of trade rumors. So we'll see what happens over the next few days. But that was just very coincidental that Ristolainen did not play. And his name has definitely been circling around the trade rumor mill over the past few days. So I'm sure as we get closer and closer towards the trade deadline, I think it's in the beginning of March, so we're definitely getting closer to that aspect. But we'll see what happens. Danny Briere, Keith Jones, I trust them right now to do the right thing. They're going to stand path. They're going to focus on the rebuild. And if they're going to sell assets, they're going to sell some assets off of the deadline. That was basically going to be the goal of the entire year. If that's, Sean Walker, if that's Rasmus Ristolainen or stuff like that. If it could be a Scott Lawton, because his name once again is circling around the trade deadline rumor mill. So, yeah, it's basically just a wait and see process on that point. But, yeah, 2 points for the Flyers tonight. 4 points in these first 2 games since the All-Star break. Let's see where they go. Next game's on Saturday night against Seattle. So we'll see what they have for the Kraken on Saturday. Dave Hackstall coming back to town. That would be nice to get a win there against, that doofus. In my honest opinion, that doofus. So, yeah. Thanks, guys, for joining tonight when you decide to tune in. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS. $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thank you guys once again for tuning in whenever you choose to. And I'll see you next time.